All right, so grouting. This is a part that I used to have a lot of stress about. This is a part that I used to have a lot of stress about until you get plenty of experience. And that's what I want to pass on to you, is how to go about this and make this as easy as possible. But this is my own shower. In all of my showers, I really highly recommend Epoxy Grout. Now, I'm going to be using my favorite epoxy, which is the Spectralock Pro Epoxy. I just really think this is a great investment for any tiled shower. Even if you just saved a little bit money on the tile, spend the money on the grout. This is probably 3 to 4 times more than any traditional grout that you get at the stores, but it's something that's going to be stain resistant and last the longest. It's epoxy, so it's not going to be allowing, when you ever walk into a walk-in shower and you turn on the water and you see the grout darkening, that means that the grout is actually absorbing water, and that's the last thing you want in a shower. You don't want your dyes and different things that you have in your soaps getting into the actual grout and then staining it. So if you use something like epoxy, I mean, it's something like 99% impermeable. Like, it's not going to discolor because it is an epoxy base. Now, a lot of people are afraid of this, but I've done thousands of square feet at this point. I've done at least 20 to 30 showers, and like I said, all of my own showers, I use this because I know that it's stain resistant and you can always get it back to the color. Especially if you're using a white or an off-white, you want to use something that is definitely going to be stain resistant. So I'm going to give you a bunch of tips. This is going to be kind of a quick video, but just showing you the highlights of what you need. I do have more in-depth videos on installing this in other showers. This is really simple because it's just 12 by 24s. When I'm showing you other ones, I have subway tiles, herringbone style, things that have a lot more grout. So I get into a more in depth with that. If you want to check out the videos, I'll leave the links below. But even further in this course, I have a tutorial with a pebblestone floor and the grouting on that. So the steam shower I just did with the towel ready system, definitely check that out as well. So let's get to it and grout this shower and move on to be able to get our shower doors in. Okay, so a couple things that you need for this. One is obviously a grout float. This is my favorite one, made by Troxel. But really, just as long as you get something that's a little bit flexible so you can move it into the joints is all that you really need. You're gonna need a couple scrubby pads. So at least get a couple of these. This is gonna help remove the excess grout off of it. Obviously a sponge. And then another important point is to have some microfiber cloths. So this is gonna help keep the residue from being on the tile. We'll show you how we go about that here shortly. But my first tip is with the mixing. Now I got a pretty big unit here. I probably didn't need this much. I'm gonna have a lot of excess left over. But the one thing you wanna pay attention to with epoxy is that once you mix it, that's it. Like, if you miss a spot, if you don't get something covered correctly, you're gonna have to buy another unit to repair anything that you did. So make sure that all your joints are clean, all the thin set is removed. Because if you see that thin set coming in the following day and you see a little bit of thin set and you try to scrape it out, you're gonna have to buy another kit just to repair that spot. So that's the only downside to this. That's where the pre-mixes are really nice, because they stay in the bucket and you can just patch things later on. But the durability of this, I think, is well worth the expense. And if you have to buy a mini unit, you can get a small unit of it to do any repairs. But try to prevent that from happening because it is expensive. So let's go ahead and mix our part A and B and give you my first tip on making sure that this is easy for you. Okay, so my first tip is to not use all of the sand part. Part C is the actual fine aggregate and the color. If you keep a little bit out of this, it'll make it a little bit looser and easier to put into place. Now, there are some situations you might want to use all of this and get a really thick base, and that would be something like, pebble, even pebbles, or something that you have really thick grout joints. You might want it to be a little bit thicker. but most of the time you want it to be, you know, easy to put in. So I would just hold back about 10% of this so that you have a nice loose mixture and it's easy to work with. Okay, so you just want to take a damp sponge, wipe down the towel surface before you apply it. This will help kind of glide it over. A matter of just packing all the joints. Pretty simple. The most important thing here is just making sure that you fill the joints. So don't worry too much about how much is actually left over, because that'll all easily come off of there. Okay, so just make sure everything's filled. Don't worry about the excess. You can see how much I have left over on the tile. It's not a big deal. Now, if you wanted to make it easy on yourself, you could do the floor first the night before. I do recommend that a lot of times, but it depends on all the time that you have. And there wasn't this much grout for this shower, so that's why I'm doing it all at once. And even as a contractor, I would probably be doing it all at once. But if this is your first time, it's not a bad idea just to get a mini bucket for the floor, let it dry, and then do the walls. Mainly because the one thing that will affect this is if there's water in the joints now. So if you get water in the joints now, it's going to end up creating pinholes or a sag in the grout, and you're going to have to repair it the next day. So as long as you just stay away from getting water in these joints on the floor, you should be good. But you're going to be better off to do the floor first, so then if you do slop any water down, it's not going to be a problem. But once you get the grout in there and it dries for 20 minutes, then you can use as much water as you want and it's not going to affect anything. So it is a different grout than most. It definitely has a unique quality to it. But yeah, to do this all at once is probably going to be the most economical with time and money, honestly, because it's a little bit cheaper just to buy one big unit of it. They were supposed to be out here last week. Make sure you can see this, babe. So the floors definitely take up a lot. So this is where you're gonna really use it up. Okay, then I just usually like to grout these joints right against the floor. I honestly never had a crack there using the epoxy. It just looks cleaner, you know. And then if it does crack, I mean, then you can proceed on to caulking that joint. The main ones I do are the vertical seams because there's a little bit more movement in those walls normally than the floor. Yeah, don't worry too much about the excess and it will all come off. So we'll just let that sit for about 10 more minutes. We'll double check it before we move it. Just make sure it's dry enough. That's probably the most important aspect, is when to actually start tooling the joints. And it's going to be once you can touch this and you're not pulling on any grout. So we'll show you that in about 10 minutes. Let this dry a little bit. The walls are going to obviously go first because that's the first part that we did. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. You want to check the grout with your finger. So you want to kind of press on it, and if you're pulling it out, see how I'm pulling it out on my finger there? You want to wait a little bit longer. Some of this is starting to harden up, so I'm not really pulling too much off of some of this, but most of it, like especially where it's a little bit thicker, I'm still pulling it out. So I'm going to wait another 5-10 minutes, and then definitely the floor is definitely getting, I can still pull it up pretty easily. So you want it to be like where it's kind of skinned over, where you can kind of mold it, so that when you rub it with the sponge, you're not pulling it out of the joint. You kind of want to make, most grout joints, you want to have it all nice and smooth with the tile. So the more firm it is, the better off you are. Okay, so another 8 minutes or so. Now you can go ahead and pull this out and you're not getting anything off your finger. So it's sticky and it's moldable. So that's what you want to be able to do that. Now I would just test an area, just take your scrubby pad and then smooth the joints. Make sure you're not totally scraping out the joint. So that looks pretty good. So now we can go ahead and scrub the shower. Now the floor, it's almost there. I'm still pulling stuff off. So I'm just gonna put a board down over here so I don't trample on the grout joints, because I might have to wait a little bit longer for that. But as long as I don't tool the joint there on the bottom, it won't be a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrub this. And then if you're pulling it out, you know, just go back, just wait a little bit longer. You know, there's no sense in pulling the grout out and having to attach it in there, but I'm gonna keep the rest of my stuff here so I can just fill in some spots if I need it. But the one big thing that's nice about this is you can see how much water I'm using. So I can use a lot of water to remove the excess grout. And we'll further tool the joint with the sponge. And make sure anything that is pulling out, just to add a little bit more. something like that. I'm kind of washing that out there. Just fill that in. It's pretty humid here today, so let's kind of tell you what, I'm doing too many repairs here because it's washing some of this out. So I'm just gonna wait another couple minutes before I do the sidewalls. Because it is washing out the joints more than I want. You should be able to put a lot of pressure on these joints. And these are just like minor details. It's just recessing below the tile just slightly, and I don't like it, so. Let's take a microfiber cloth and wipe off the excess water. That'll prevent the haze from forming on the actual tile. Washing out these joints kind of make this a pain. So if it's humid, just wait. It's not worth this right now. Because what I'm trying to do is get the grout even with the joints, and I want it to be nice and told. All right, let this sit for a couple more minutes. Let this harden up a little bit more. Okay, so a bit more firmer now. Now I can really scrub this. Yeah, much better. A few minutes just makes a big difference. So if you're in a humid environment, you know, it's gonna take a little bit longer. I mean, it literally took me, what, about 10 minutes to grout it. And then we waited about 20 minutes, so we're almost 35 minutes in before we can start scrubbing it. So you have plenty of time. That's where this stuff shouldn't be scary. Now, if you're in a drier environment, you know, out west or something, then you're probably gonna already be needing to wash this. So it really depends on your own circumstances. But I've only gotten behind on this once. And that was because there was sun coming into the bathroom through a window, and there was also a breeze, like a window was open or whatever, and it kind of hardened on me, and it just took a lot of elbow grease. I mean, I got it all off, but you know, if you try to take lunch or something or take a long phone call, you can get in trouble with this stuff. So I'm just planning to wait around and get this at the right time. So yeah, much easier. And I'm not washing out the joints now. I'll put a lot of pressure on it. And then just dry this off and eliminate a lot of this haze. It's still gonna be a little bit sticky. We'll let this completely dry, and then we'll get a little bit of windex and scrub everything again, and that'll take off the haze. So this stuff is really nice. Very easy to prevent any haze, even on a rough surface tile. It's a little bit easier on a smooth surface like this. Okay, so let that completely dry, and then we'll just go over it with a final wash with some glass cleaner with vinegar in it, and that'll get off the rest of it. It'll be a little bit sticky still, but it'll be easy to clean. But this is the part where you just really have to make sure that all your joints are even with the tile. So you have plenty of time here for the next hour to touch things up if you have anything washing out, or if you see something that's a little too recessed, because you don't want to see the edges of the tile anywhere. Okay, so about an hour later, you can go ahead and scrub the walls. Use another clean scrubby and something with a little bit of vinegar. Even a multi-purpose cleaner would be fine. That's it. Now ready for trim and shower doors.